Erin, welcome back to the Way Champions podcast. Jerry and I are so excited to have you back on. I think you were one of our guests, maybe our first year, and it's still been one of the most impactful podcasts that we've done for me personally. And we'll talk about that in a bit, but it's so great to have you back on.
Thanks, John and Jerry. It's really great to be here. Kind of a full circle moment for me. Again, early podcast with you guys, but also early in my coaching career over 30 years ago, being treated to Jerry's books and getting my coaching career started that way. And then retiring this spring and to be finishing up being on a podcast with Jerry is really special. So great to be here. Thank you.
Jerry, I know it's kind of bittersweet for you, isn't it?
Geez, yeah. I'm so happy for you. I think finding a way to retire and refire, which I think you're going to do. I don't see you completely retiring.
Yeah.
If you're completely retired, call me up. I have some gigs that I want you to be with. I,
That's a
but
deal.
yeah, okay, yeah, for sure. But anyway, yeah, your retirement is bittersweet to me personally because I always felt kind of secure with you in Middlebury in terms of my work and books. I always felt I had a landing pad, a place where you were open to a way of thinking that was new, open to change and what have you. And tremendous, amazing support for Way of Champions. And I'll be forever grateful to you for helping your coaches and staff to be turned on to this whole idea of Way of Champions, which John and I are totally involved in right now. And I was just wondering, what was it, if you could think of something specific, but what was it about Way of Champions that you believe made a difference in the Middlebury culture?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you go all the way back to what I referenced when I opened up and said hello, is early in my coaching career, I realized there has to be more. I think I learned through playing sports and through my early coaching and through my family that hard work really matters, discipline really matters, and I would have really kind of maybe over-indexed on mental and physical toughness mattering. So I kind of got that through my athletic career and early in my coaching career, and got to the point where I feel like, okay, that's all necessary, but it's not sufficient, and was just looking for what are some of the things that round out an individual. And really, at that same time, Jerry, our mutual friend, Missy Foote, who was our longtime women's lacrosse coach here, great coach and great human being, turned me on to this guy named Jerry Lynch. And
Mm,
for me as a coach, just sort of rounding out that sort of, and it complements the hard work, it complements the discipline, it complements the mental toughness. It gives different ways to do all those things. The mindfulness practices, the relationships, the care, the loving, all really complemented all those things really well. So it resonated with me as a coach, and really kind of sustained me in my coaching career. So when I became an athletic director, you don't want to impose, hey, this is the one way to do things. But I recognized that our coaches are going to be exposed from being athletes to hard work, to discipline, to those very fundamental values. But what are some of the other uh, principles and values, tactics and strategies that you guys talk about and write about through your Way of Champions work that can help open up coaches' minds and have them think about things in different ways? So that I think has been great for our department. A lot of coaches who might not have otherwise been exposed to some of these ways of thinking that incorporate lots of different traditions have really benefited the way I did.
yeah. Missy Foot, of course, multiple national championships at the lacrosse level. Her program continues to carry the culture forward. I mean, everyone thinks of Middlebury as a lacrosse slash football school, but I'm really amazed at how you have integrated into your life. You know, when I talk with you, you're helping your coaches to become better leaders. But really, I think a lot of that's rubbed off on you. When I think of you as a leader, as an AD, you're very unusual. I mean, let's call it what it is. There aren't many ADs like you around, and I've between John and I, we've been to over 40 different universities and colleges, met tons of ADs all through the years. And, you know, there's just a quality about you that I want to dive into, and your leadership qualities that make you different, that make you approachable, that allow you to, for instance, one of the things that really blew me away when I was up at Middlebury the first time was you're walking down the hallway, and we must have passed about 18 or 25 students. You knew every one of their first names, every
Yeah.
one of them. Not only did you know their first names, but you knew something about them. Like, so how's your mom doing? I heard that she's out of the hospital now. Is she, you know, and it was like, OMG, I've never met a leader, an athletic director who was so immersed in the process of leadership with not just his coaching staff, but uh, the athletes as well. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. You know, there's this there's a side of the job where you do have to keep the trains running on time, or and whether you're doing the actual logistics or overseeing somebody and making sure they're doing it, there is a part of that competency that's really important. But the why we're doing this, we're doing this for the student athletes. That's why we're doing it. So, for me, it's not only does it make me more effective as an athletic director to know the student athletes and know something about them and know their names and use their names. It's also the joy of the job. I I really don't know why you would do this job if you don't take the joy in knowing the student athletes and their experiences and what they're doing. That really is the joy of the job, and it is why we're doing it. So, and I also understand, though I have, an intellectual understanding and an empathy for why people aren't able to do that, because there's a lot in the job. It's like there's a lot to
Yeah,
it, and it's pretty complicated, and you do have to make sure the trains are running on time, and you are a senior administrator with lots of important responsibilities that you have to do. And I feel like in my first 5 years, going from coaching where you have day-to-day interactions with students, so it's those relationships are front and center, and it's every day, and you're coaching, so you're playing a game every afternoon at 4 o'clock or 4:30, and the joy is pretty easy and tangible to feel. Now I had this really steep learning curve early in my athletic director's career, so probably didn't have as joyful experience, didn't have those same relationships, and then really, tried to take some stock after my first 5 years and say, like, where am I? Am I doing this job the way I want to? Is it fulfilling me? And if not, do I need to do the job differently, or is it just the job and maybe I should be thinking about something else? My sense was I could be and should be doing this job a little bit differently. And okay, now I have put in 5 years. I've been up that steep learning curve. I know more than I knew 5 years ago. So let me really invest in relationships, with
mm,
our coaches, with our staff, with people on campus, and with our student athletes. And there's over 700 of them, but let's go. Let's open up the roster. It's the fall season.
yeah,
Okay, who's going to play football this year? Who's going to play field hockey this year? Who's going to cross country and know their names?
yeah.
And then you meet them and you're like, oh, I know that name, and really invest in them. So I've tried to do that the rest of the time I've been here.
So really the message, John, just one comment here, is what our listeners need to know is it's very intentional. You make
100%.
that an intention. Like my intention is to get to know these athletes. Why? Not only is it joy for me, but it's important for them
Yeah.
to feel that kind of connection.
Yeah. And you can take sort of a tactical, almost, transactional approach to it. This is going to make me a better AD. And that's important and that'll work. It will, I think, make you a better athletic director or coach or assistant athletic director or whatever you're doing. But the joy you get out of it and the joy you're bringing to the people who you're responsible for makes it just, such a deep, deep, deep experience. So it's all worthwhile to do it.
Mm. The president of Middlebury called you an AD for the coaches,
Mm.
right? And I think that's, as you were sort of hinting at, in many roles now, the athletic director is really, you could even be part of the development department. Like you're raising
Right.
money, you're doing all that. And yet what we know, right, in the best businesses, they don't necessarily serve their customers first, they serve their employees first, right? So by you investing in your coaches, then they're going to give the student athletes a better experience. And therefore, people are going to be happier, parents are going to be happier. And Middlebury, right, for anyone who doesn't know, right, is NCAA Division 3 athletics. There's not athletic scholarships. Those kids are super smart kids. They're probably not playing a sport beyond college, right? They're all
Yep.
going to work on Wall Street or they're really smart. And so the athletic experience can't just be about the discipline and the grind. It has to be about human development because what I'm taking here, I'm going to deploy it someplace else in life. And so everything you've talked about so far, taking Way of Champions and this idea of mindfulness and human development and pouring that into your coaches so that they will then in turn pour that into the athletes. I just think that, I mean, that's the key. That's the model that we would love everyone to use. And it doesn't, right? You're still winning national championships. It's not like, yeah, and we go 2-12 every year.
Yeah.
Like, this stuff works. It helps you win on the scoreboard as well, doesn't it?
Well, it really does. And the phrase you used, John, is really important for us, and that is human development, and we talked about the last time I was on, and it'll probably come up a number of times today is the why, right? And okay, so we definitely aspire to achieve and to do well athletically. We want to be the best teams, the best individual athletes, the best teams we can be, the best coaches we can be. But then you have to ask yourself, why? Why? Okay, great. That's what you do in sports. And again, I've said this for years. To me, the object of what we do is try to run faster, jump higher, score more points, win the game. That is the object of what we do. So we're going to pursue that as well as we can. But then the purpose, why do you do that? And if you can't answer that question, it's just, you got to go that next level. We can answer the question. We're trying to develop our student athletes to be the best individuals and the best team members they can be here to support this Middlebury community so that when they go out in the world, they make the world a better place and they're the best versions of themselves as individuals and as members of teams, meaning communities, when they graduate from here. That is what we were doing. We are very clear on that purpose. We are very clear on the why. We are pursuing excellence on the field, in practice, and in competition so that our student athletes, when they leave here, are the best versions of themselves that they bring it out into the world. And we see it play out. Like I've seen it in 20 years of coaching and now 20 years as an athletic director. And you're so fulfilled and proud when you see the 50-year-old or 60-year-old or 30-year-old or 40-year-old version of the student athlete that you helped mentor, either directly, say, as a coach as an athletic director. You have to get comfortable with the indirect impact sometimes that you're supporting the coaches so that they can better support the players that are with them every day. And
Yeah.
you have some direct impact, but a lot of times it's a little bit more indirect through the
And
coaches.
and I think what also says beyond the championships that this stuff works is um, your coaches stay at Middlebury,
Yeah,
right? Bill Beanie in hockey there forever. Legend could have jumped probably to any number of Division I jobs if he wanted. I think of the people that I know. We talked about Missy Foote, Peter Kim in women's soccer. I mean,
yeah,
Alex Elias, men's soccer, who played there and then coached there. It's just like, it's, yes, Middlebury is a gorgeous, beautiful, idyllic Vermont town, but coaches are ambitious people, right? And
yeah.
so you need to serve them as well so that they stay. And they're not there because it's comfortable, right? Dave Sayward before that, right? Like,
Right.
no, they want to win. They're competitive, but I'm being given all the tools to do my job to the best of my ability. And that comes from the top, right? You're serving them, they can serve other people.
Yeah, we talk a lot about culture here, and I think that's the purpose. I think your values, we a way to I guess a way to think of it to just back up a little bit is, why are we doing what we're doing? What's our purpose? And that's to develop our student athletes to be the best individuals and team members they can possibly as they go out into the world. Okay, well, how do you do that? Well, that's your principles and values. We're doing that with integrity. We're doing that with respect. We're doing that with hard work, all those different values. And then, what is it? What does it look like? And that's your culture. A lot of people will sort of lead with principles and values. This is what we stand for. And that's really important to know what you stand for. But your culture is, what does it actually look like? How does it play out day to day? And sometimes principles and values and what somebody says doesn't align with what it looks like on a day-to-day basis when the pressure is on, when it's a tight game. So, respect or integrity or love, those things really matter. But what happens when someone misses the shot? What happens when the pressure's on? Are you, still committed to those principles and values? Well, in the ideal world, your principles and values that you have, the how you're doing things line up with your culture because those principles and values play out on a day-to-day basis when the pressure's on, when things are hard, because you need to have that as your culture because hard things will happen. If they're just principles and values that you've talked about, but they're not your culture, when the hard things happen, the cracks will show, it will fall apart. You're not going to win, but it may be even worse than that. Things might really fall apart. But if the culture's there, when the inevitable hard things happen, and hopefully hard using air quotes like a challenging game and not the really hard things that we were talking about off camera before we got in here, life's hard things will happen. And again, we're preparing you for life. So if the culture's there, if they match the principles, they match the values, that when the hard things arrive, you're going to be in a position to handle them as well as possible.
I mean, holy cow, we could just end right there.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
Jerry, right? This
exclamation
is
point.
Jerry would put all that into one of the succinct Jerryisms as from the wall to the ball,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Your values look great on a web page or on your wall, but are they real when it matters most? Right?
Right.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. And it can't just be something that we put on the back of our t-shirts that say we're about respect and integrity. In the hardest moments is when integrity is real or it's not, when discipline is real or it's not, and that's what you're talking about on and off the field, on and off the ice.
Yeah, yeah. Let me jump in here for a minute. There's so much going on in my mind right now. Very stimulating. This is fantastic. Uh, you know, what's really interesting to me as I listen to you guys is it's the very way you're being, not what you're doing as an AD. It's how you're being that is attractive to athletes and coaches to enable them to bring out their best. So I think one of the problems with a lot of leadership in this field of sports, particularly at the AD level, is they're trying to take care of those X's and O's. They're trying to recruit the coaches with the best winning record. And that's all good and fine. But the thing is, you're modeling, Erin. You are modeling the values. You're modeling integrity. You're modeling love. I read something the other day where great coaching is really about love. And and so when the top dog is modeling these these traits, these behaviors, not only do people want to stay, but people want to come. Athletes want to come. Coaches want to come. One of the to me one of the most amazing situations, and we'll step back here a bit, is I don't know how many years ago, it was 12 years, 13 years ago, our friend Bob Hansen, right?
Yeah.
This is a great story. I mean, he was a very successful 10, 12 time NC2A coach of the decade at UC Santa Cruz, his hometown, with his family. The weather being 75 degrees today, absolutely gorgeous. And you recruit him to Middlebury. Why? Because of what everything you're talking about.
Yeah.
And the AD that doesn't get that, modeling that kind of trait and behavior, how does that culture, you have to be the change you want to see. You have to actually be a person of integrity,
Yeah.
a person who's fearless, who's selfless, who's giving, who makes people feel important and valued. People, students feel important and valued around you. Coaches feel important and valued about that. That's intentional. That comes back to my point of you model this stuff. And I want all these leaders out there that are listening to this and having the opportunity to listen to you, Erin, is that it doesn't come from a book. It comes from inside. If these are important things to you and you value those and you model those, coaches are going to want to be there. I want to go back to Bob for a minute because you took him away from me. I mean, he's a buddy, right? And I worked with Bob up at UC Santa Cruz year after year after year. You know, we worked so long together. And he comes to me, he says, "I've got this opportunity to go to Middlebury." And my first thing about him is I said, you better check out the weather."
Yeah.
And he
I
said,
I warned him about that as well. So
"You did. Okay,
yeah.
that was good." I was wondering if you told him that. Uh, but he said to me, he said, "It's an amazing culture. The athletic director there, you got to get to meet him," which of course I did. Very blessed to have had that honor. And he said, "It's not all about the weather." He said, "I can go back there and I can build a championship program or build off a championship program." And he did. He went back there and he was competing for the national championship almost every year, won one. And you recruited the best, arguably the best tennis coach in the country when he was at the age of retirement after a 30-year career. He went to Middlebury. Why? Everything we're talking about.
Yeah. No question. I think
What a play. What a place.
yeah, it was fun for him to round out the last 10 years or so of his career, to be in an environment where you lead with culture and culture matters, and you can walk down the hallway and pop into any coach's office. You can go out to any practice, and everybody's an individual and does things their own way, but they're all grounded in the same firm principles, and you can share that with any coach in any office or any athlete on any team and feel that connection right away. And that's what Bob was attracted to. And
Yeah. Yeah.
Bob would say after his 10 years, kind of mission accomplished, he got what he had hoped, and we got everything that we could have asked for. And you talk about a coach who leads with love. Bob models that as well as anybody.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, I mean, like you said, almost 40 years, Aaron, right? First as a coach, and for anyone listening, right, you're, three national championships as a coach, move into that athletic leadership role. How have things changed over that time? And people always ask us, how are kids different? But yet, you still can reach them. We see these coaches with incredible longevity who, as kids are different, they still know how to reach them. Or as our friend
Yeah.
Betsy would say, you got to reach them before you teach them,
Yeah.
right? And so how are they changed, and how do you and your coaches go about still recruiting the right kids and then connecting with them so that they can perform their best?
Yeah, I think to me, the way I think about the biggest change in sports over that time, and it certainly highlighted at the Division I level, and I think people obviously that's what people see on TV and can read about and see on social media, and it is the transactional nature of sport,
Mm,
and in let's talk really broadly, right? First, so not every athlete is transactional, not every Division I athlete, not every professional athlete, not the entire experience. But when we're talking broadly and in the aggregate, I think people can picture we're here in March of 2026, and transfer portal and people playing for four teams in 6 years and suing to get extra time to because you have an NIL deal, not because of love of your coach and team and school and jersey, and not because you're getting a transformational education. It's very transactional, and I think there's a world where it's like, hey, people need to make a living and they have the opportunity to do that. That's great. So it's not, all black and white. But anyway, that you've got transfer portal, you've got NIL at the top of the collegiate sport ranks, and even before any of that came in, the transactional nature I would describe for young athletes, let's pick an age, you're in second or third grade and you play soccer. Well, you're trying to get on a particular travel team so that you can make a particular club team, so that you can make a particular U12 team, U15 team, et cetera. And then, go to the right, elite program, club program, and presumably, I guess, so that you can go to a particular college. I don't even know what each family and each person is doing that for different reasons. If it's to become a pro, that's such a small number of people that it's probably a bit of folly by doing that. But it's transactional along the way. And it might be there are awesome people all along that way and all awesome people in that continuum. But if you take it on the aggregate, it's a pretty transactional thing. And then to think then you're going to get to college, you're going to come to a Division III school, and our coaches are maybe grounded in principles and why we're doing this and we're building better people. And perhaps the student has never been in an experience like that before. That's never been the purpose. The mindfulness of being where your feet are, to playing with joy for the love of the game. These almost can seem, trite in the world that we live in. So if we do a good job of it, it can be like an incredibly transformational experience instead of a transactional experience. And maybe it's for the first time. So it takes a lot of work to unwind some of those habits, that maybe some mental habits or physical habits that somebody has formed over the years along this transactional continuum, to just get. And to, if you come here, it might be like, oh, now I'm playing my sport and I need to be involved in this club and check this box and do this thing, and I have to be the captain, and then I've got to get this internship, and playing a sport and doing this internship, then that'll help me get the next job. It's like, well, when do you enjoy the moment? When do you enjoy the person who's right in front of you? When do you invest in the relationship in front of you? When can you, both plan for the future, but live in the present and take a deep breath and be fully present with your teammates, with your coaches,
Mm,
and not be thinking about how this benefits me or what this next step is, or I need to do this for this reason. And so that transactional nature that was not in place when we were growing up. You playing sports in the backyard and playing sports for fun. And I don't want to sound like that old man get off my yard thing, but there's something's really important about being in the moment and enjoying the sports for what they are and using them for the benefits they can, not for the next club team, the right school, the right job. So that to me is the thing that is has changed the most, that's been the most challenging.
mm,
And now we have, and that's sort of from the bottom up, right? That's from the youth programs up.
mm,
Now, if I think about just our own, where I live in Division 3, but I think it's sort of all the levels, then the top down thing that's creating the same influence is portal, excuse me, NIL, those things seeping down, where now you have an athlete who comes into a Division 3 school who should be choosing the school for academic reasons and, yes, to play the sport and have fun, saying, well, I've played a year and I did well, so now I should test the waters. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by test the waters? You're trying to get an education here and use sports as part of your education. What waters are you testing? Like, what are you look? Why? What are you looking for? To be able to say that I'm a Division 1 athlete, or like, you didn't start on a team or didn't go exactly the way you wanted to. So now what you do in 26 is you transfer. Like that's what you do. You just transfer. You don't.
yeah.
And again, there's reasons why sometimes transferring is really good and coaches, a particular coach and a player are not a good fit or a program is not healthy and people should be transferring and should leave. So writ large, though, it's not a healthy system.
yeah.
Any individual athlete, coach, team might be brilliant and healthy and awesome and have all the right things. But if we're looking at the system, that's how I see some of the challenges right now.
I love how you tied it from the bottom up and the top down. It's never
Yeah,
just one thing. And certainly in Division 1, we think about the transfers and, mid majors to big schools. And it always amazes me to see a kid, and I see this in youth sports as well. When you have a child or a young man or a young woman who is thriving and they're ready to run. Like, what's next? What's next? Instead of, like you said, be where your feet are. Like, you are thriving right now. You're having a great experience academically, athletically. You got a great coach. You got a great team. And yeah, they've been raised in this world of like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Instead of saying, this is a great fit for me right now. And the ones that I see truly thrive are not the ones that are always on the move. It's the ones who stay. And we've now seen this long enough, I feel like in youth sports, maybe not in college, is the ones who have stayed or the ones who have always been on the move, they look back and they're like, that wasn't good. And their parents look back
Mm,
and like,
hmm.
what were we thinking?
Yeah.
It's like they've blown childhood,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
just really, really sad. And so thank you for sharing that because I think this is the message certainly that I am trying to get out every day through blogs and this podcast and our books and everything. And Jerry is as well of like, when you find a good home, be where your feet are for a while and just be
yeah,
happy. Because the grass is often not greener over the
right.
next
Yeah,
hill.
exactly.
Or at least it requires mowing no matter where
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah,
And that's a lot of work, you know. You
Yeah.
know, Erin, you threw out some words here I don't want to overlook, and I think they're really important to you and to your program and your culture. They're very important to John and I. You talk about being in the moment. That's kind of a wonderful phrase. It sounds good. The question is, how are we going to help young kids to appreciate that moment. The other terms you threw out are mindfulness, very important word for John and I, mindfulness. You talk about joy and the love of not only each other and your teammates and the sport, the love of the game, uh, the love of your life. I mean, right now, are the kids in Middlebury loving their life? And I think again, getting back to you as the leader, there are certain things that I notice over the years that you've partaken that continue. You're a lifelong learner. I would define you that way. You're
Right?
constantly open up to learning new things and staying mentally sharp and current and physically fit. Um, but words, concepts like meditation, yoga, other modalities. Talk to us about that and how that fits in with your way of being so that other people can feel your being present in the moment. I always got that feeling from you that you were
Yeah.
always here with me.
Well, the listeners won't be able to see, but I'll hold up a rock for you guys, and you won't be able to read it. But to demonstrate, that the what I'm saying, is not. I'm just not making it up for this conversation. This is a rock, and it says "fully present" on there. And
Hmm.
we handed these out. A psychology professor and I. Co-facilitated a mindfulness symposium at Middlebury College, and she was coming at it from the perspective of psychology. I was coming at it from the perspective of sports. So, yeah, these Jerry, and again, I have to thank you because as I was a young coach trying to look for some of these extra things, I had some of like the work ethic and running and lifting weights and getting fit for sports and all of that was really helpful. But really sort of the ability to slow down, to take a deep breath, to savor a little bit, to make time slow down a little. There's lots of pressure in life, and there's lots of pressure in a game, and the meditation for me, and I kind of waffle back and forth. Sometimes I'll explain it to students that I'm working with, and I'll just say we could just think of these as just breathing exercises. We all breathe. And when my daughter was doing a project at Middlebury College, she was filming me and she said, "What's the most important thing you've learned in school? I know you graduated from Middlebury College, you got your master's from Tufts, so you've been in school a long time. What's the most important thing you ever learned?" And I said, "I learned it outside of school, and I learned how to breathe properly." So, it to me, it's like the grounding fundamental physical practice of breathing properly because things happen in life, in games, when we're in sports, but they happen in life, and you have a thought, you have an experience, it triggers an emotion, the emotion triggers a physiological response. If that spot response is stress or anger or frustration, then your breath is going to get shorter, it's going to get higher up into your chest, your breathing becomes faster, your thinking is not as clear, your vision's not as clear. There's all these downstream effects, and it's either going to be a negative, vicious cycle, or I'm going to recognize that, have the self-awareness to say, oh, that's that thing that triggers me, or why is what has triggered me? All of a sudden, I'm finding myself a little anxious, a little frustrated, a little angry, and you recognize that, and you say, like, well, do I need that right now? This is like, obviously you guys know this. This is like fight or flight. Do I need my breath up there and I need to be running away from something right now? Most of the time, no. The answer is no. I don't need to be physically alert right now. I actually need to bring it down a little bit. So for me, practicing meditation or breathing exercises is just, learning how to breathe properly. So I had a daily practice for, these are all aspirational to sometimes I miss a day, of course, a daily practice for over 30 years of sitting and breathing and trying different forms of meditation, but really trying to develop the self-awareness of my mind-body connection, and then the ability to self-regulate when I have that awareness that something's off and I need to regulate myself. really helped me in coaching under pressure situations, helps me in this job, helps me regulate stress, helps me focus. And the rock that I showed you helps me be fully present. Somebody says something to you, and now I'm in more of a desk leadership role. I'm not out in the field dealing with those stressful situations. I have something, and maybe I want to respond right away. Maybe it kind of triggers me a little bit. And I know like I need to like settle myself down. I need to settle in here, breathe, relax, and I need to get back the way you do in meditation. You mind wanders a little bit, you come back. Your mind wanders a little bit, you come back. Okay, well, this person said something that triggered me a little bit. Okay, fine. Get present, come back. Begin again, come back, listen to this person, be present for this person. So I've done that through Tai Chi as well, and through meditation. Those have been like two main, other than exercise that I think really helps. Being in nature really helps me. But the practices that have helped me for over 30 something years have been a regular Tai Chi practice that I have with some
Hmm.
local friends
Hmm.
who the teacher was a football player at Middlebury back in the 70s, and then a daily meditation practice that has evolved over time as well. And those have been really effective tools for me.
Yeah, so what you're really looking at here, what we're hearing is is life. It becomes a spiritual journey, a journey where you're choosing methodologies, be it Tai Chi, meditation, to go inside, because when we don't go inside, I love the expression, and become an astronaut of inner space
Hmm.
and discover who we are and what this is all about, then we just start reacting. And the reactions are transactional. And you're looking at transformation of your inner psyche, your soul, your heart, you know, that kind of language. And it allows you to and for all leaders out there, whether you're a 5-star, 4-star general uh, in a war, or whether you're leading a church group, or whether you're leading a wonderful sports culture at Middlebury, we have to intentionally, it seems to me, what you're saying is, if you're going to give advice to a bunch of leaders, ADs out there, is like we have to do some personal growth and personal awareness, that life doesn't just happen to us and we get zapped with problems and stress. It's always there. How do you wish to lead yourself into your future? And what are you going to do about that? So that's some of the thoughts I had about the more spiritual qualities of
And self-care, Jerry, and Aaron, right?
self-care.
Like you
Absolutely.
start there, right? I love this, this idea of don't be a starving baker, right? You
Hmm.
you can't feed everyone else and not feed yourself. And
Hmm.
I think this is such a critical thing that so many athletic directors,
Hmm.
people in your position, in coaches, right? We don't take care of ourselves. We don't take care of our family. We pour everything into our people, our athletes, whatever it is, and then it all falls apart. We burn out or whatever. And so I think this is so, I mean, I just listening to you, Aaron, say this, like it starts with meditation, it starts with Tai Chi, it starts with, Aaron was telling us, skinning up the ski mountain at 6 a.m. before you go into work the day, and you fill your cup and then you can fill everyone else's.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'll jump in to
Yeah.
a number of things you guys both said is how I teach leadership to classes when I teach on campus or if I'm talking to a group, whatever. And, I if I were to title like, hey, Aaron, can you do a leadership talk? I would say, yeah, I'm gonna title it Inside Out Leadership.
Mm.
So it's inside out. It starts with self-awareness. And then it's self-regulation because I always laugh and say, if you're self-aware, but then you don't self-regulate, that's not really that great. Like I realize I do all these things, that are not healthy, but I'm not going to regulate that. So it's self-awareness, it's self-regulation, and it is then inside out. But so it's Jerry, you said before the way of being, not doing. So leadership isn't just doing something to somebody. It starts inside your self-awareness, your self-regulation, but it is out. You are leadership is a process of influence. So you do want to influence others as a leader. So then it's other awareness, though. Then it's which is empathy, which is okay. I'm able to be self-aware and self-regulate. That allows me to then be in a relationship with you and have an other awareness about what your needs are. What you need from me as a leader. And
Exactly.
then scale your
Yeah.
leadership would be social awareness. Now you have enough awareness and you have enough, presence to be able to see what the group needs and
Mm.
to be able to communicate and influence across a group. But it does all start with inside out. And sometimes people think leading means doing something to others as opposed to it being a way of being and having it start with you and then emanate out from the work that you're doing on yourself.
Yeah, like we're human beings, not human doings, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Mm. And
Wow.
being is a verb, so it's action.
Yes.
And action is what we're talking about. We're talking about like taking the time to be, breathing, being present, being being humble, humility, being selfless.
Jerry, I was just thinking, Aaron, Jerry and I, we have a book at the editor right now, a new book on how to be a great team captain. And this will be out in the spring, late spring. And this is exactly what we've been writing about, that leadership is, it's the service and things like that, but leadership is a choice. And so many kids, I'm sure you get them at Middlebury as well, you know, they're told to be a better leader, but we haven't taught them how to be a better leader.
Right.
And I love your term inside out leadership because that's really what it's about. It starts inside and it starts with the choice of this is how I'm going to be, and everything comes from that moment, doesn't it? And
It
and
does.
yeah, how are you teaching your team captains that at Middlebury?
We're we're going through this a lot. It's an interesting thing of being the more you scale your leadership, the farther you are away from, the hands-on. And it's a bit of a balance of, you have I may have personal ideas of what I think works and how I want to phrase things. And when I'm coaching a team of, say, 45 men's lacrosse players when I was a head coach, you're hands-on with them every day. You're the head coach, and you want to be inclusive around getting their ideas, incorporating their ideas. You've got assistant coaches, but then at the end of the day, you're the head coach, and you can kind of keep a pretty tight rein on what we're teaching and what we're doing. We're we're working as a department. We've been trying to figure out with our leadership team over the last couple of years, and we're trying to be patient going through it. Is how do you scale these things? How do you allow organic, authentic work to be done within each team in an athletic department? We have 31 teams, right? So, how much do we sort of centralize or centrally say, hey, this is what we should be teaching, or this is what you need to be teaching, or you should be teaching? So we're struggling with this question a little bit of what do we teach? So we're probably mostly in a mode of not mandating anything, but we have regular call them coffee talks with our coaches, and we pick topics like leadership, like relationships with team members, like how do you work with team captains? How do you, if it's a head coach meeting, how do you work with your assistant coaches? Where we can present some of these ideas without mandating it. So it's mostly just sort of creating the opportunities to expose the
Mm.
people in our department with ideas, and then letting them kind of incorporate them in their own words in ways that are authentic to them.
Yeah.
We do have some centralized things with, I'm meeting with our student athlete advisory committee in a couple of weeks, and they're working on some well-being stuff and wanted me to do a session with them. And, we'll do breathing exercises, and we'll talk about inside out leadership. And we are working on a captain's program.
Hmm.
We'll be interested in having your
Ooh,
book come out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
be sure you send me be sure you
You'll
send it
get
to
an
me.
advance copy for
Yeah, hopefully I
sure.
will not have retired yet. You can send it to
No,
me.
no, we're working to beat your retirement date.
Yes, please do.
Aaron, one of the things that Jerry and I did for this book is we reached out to many former team captains, coaches, leadership, and we asked them what are the biggest challenges that your student athlete leaders face these days. And I'm curious to what your answers are. What are your coaches telling you these are the biggest challenges? Because we got some very common ones that really came back. And what we decided to do in the book is present these scenarios not as here's what you should do, but here's the challenge. How are you going to do it? And help captains work through it before the
Nice.
season starts.
Yeah.
So curious what you would say the biggest challenges your team captains face.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, just I think all leaders right now are experiencing that we're in a very challenging world. So I think as a team captain, it's not a simple world that they live in. It's not simple for themselves, and they're feeling the challenges of leadership with a group of young people who've been through COVID, who, are got all sorts of challenges in the world right now. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say there's a mental health crisis in the youth of our country, and that's who our captains are leading. Our student athletes, to be clear, are amazing and awesome people, and have so much going for them. But these are some of the challenges that we live in a challenging world that's pretty complicated. So that's just one sort of overlay of just the complexity of the world that these captains live in. So it's for themselves. They're managing themselves. We're talking about inside out leadership. They've got to take care of themselves and lead themselves first. So how to do that? I think that's a really broad answer to it. Two specific things that I think, um, and the first one is not new. I think as captains, if somebody is elected as a captain, if we're talking specifically about captains, you've gone through your playing career and you've led your team in such a way that your combination of your teammates and coaches have said you should be the captain. You're the leader. We're going to designate you as a leader or leaders of this team. So I used to try when I was coaching to really reinforce keep doing the things that got you there. Don't change. You all of a sudden don't have to take a 90-degree right-hand turn. So it's a challenge for captains to say, like before, I could just be who I am, and apparently, from what I understand, that's a leader. Now you're telling me I have to be the leader, and what trying to like still be myself. Some leaders might do it in a little introverted way, and people elect them as captain. And I would say, okay, well, they elected you as an introverted captain. Be an introverted captain. Sometimes we have to flex. An extrovert, and I need to withdraw a little bit. I'm an introvert, and I need to go outside myself. So you do have to flex your style sometimes. But it's this idea that all of a sudden they have to be all things to all people and not recognizing that they were elected captain for a reason. The other challenge that I think has always been a challenge. I think, it's easy to say kids nowadays. Um, but I do think it's challenging right now, maybe forever, for peers to confront peers. Um, and who knows if that's, a social media thing that people don't communicate quite as well. But I think it's always been hard though. That I try to tell our coaches when they say, well, kids these days, they can't communicate with their peers and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. When we were growing up, it's not that we were all sitting around giving each other advice on what they need to
Honest
be doing
critiques.
better. Yeah. Hey, before we get into an emergency situation, let me give you some corrective behaviors that I think might help you. I don't think we were doing that. I think we were as reticent with our constructive
Absolutely.
criticism as, but anyway, I think that's a real challenge. How and when do you speak up directly? How do you do that? Do you do it directly? Do you do it indirectly? Do you do it through somebody? I think there's a sense that they're often now looking for somebody else to do it for them. Like they're perceptive and they're bright, so they can recognize that something needs to be done. So it's like, oh, so then do this for me. And it's like, actually, you're in the leadership position. You need to do that. So how to communicate challenging things to peers, or communicate up and manage up to the coach and communicate those. How to just recognize like this is okay. Like it's okay. We're going to have challenge. You're in a leadership position. We're in a challenging environment. We're trying to make this environment challenging. That's going to make you grow. That's okay. And then we communicate through these things. And how do you communicate effectively across difference? And if we could figure that out, our country wouldn't be in the state that it's in. It's hard to communicate across difference right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Isn't sports a good place to practice it?
yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, it is.
Jerry.
It's a
Go ahead.
great laboratory for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other laboratory would be just relationships in life, period. I
Yeah.
think you take a look at the divorce rate in this country. Well, you could look at it two ways. Number one is 50% of the people stay together after their marriage. I like to think that, but the truth is 50% get divorced, and it
Mhm.
doesn't work out because of the things you're talking about. They don't know
Yeah.
how to communicate that particular aspect of their lives. They're afraid to talk to each other. Like, well, I'm not going to say anything to her because she's not going to listen, or he's not going to listen, and so it really does come down to this being open and communicating. And again, those kind of behaviors are something that I believe can be modeled in sports, perhaps better than any other activity in the world.
It's great. I think it's a great opportunity, which I think creates a great responsibility for us that you can do it in sports. And,
Yeah.
when I talk to teams, I'm like, there's sometimes a social cost that comes from speaking out or confronting somebody even in a respectful, thoughtful way. But jumping over that chasm and taking that leap, most of the time, if you do that in a thoughtful, respectful way,
Hmm.
even if the initial conversation is awkward or challenging or hard, most people are going to come around and respect that and be really thankful when they realize that you've tried to help them.
We
We
were
talk about like holding each other accountable in the moment instead of after something's happened. To say like, oh, well, you've done that thing, now you're in trouble. How about, hey, that's not consistent with our values and with our culture. Let's not do that thing
mhm.
before it actually happens. And we're
Yeah.
really trying to get them to be, comfortable taking that social risk up front.
I love that idea of social risk. And we wrote a part of the difference between being nice and being kind, right?
Yeah,
Being nice is telling someone what they want to hear. Being kind is telling them the truth.
yeah,
And leaders, you can't be nice. You got to be kind, right? You have to. Yes, you take into people's emotional state into account, and you do all these things, but you have to tell people the truth, and you have to love them,
yeah.
and that's really what leadership is. And I think, given the world our children have grown up in, it's very easy to not have that difficult conversation face to face. This is one of the big challenges, right? So you talked
Yeah.
about having those conversations, but having the conversation when I say, "Hey, Aaron, did you address your teammates, constant lateness and whatever?" If your answer is, "Yeah, I sent him a text," that's not what we're talking about here,
Mm.
right? Yeah,
No, does not work. And I going back to the kindness, I think it's maybe Brene Brown who says clear is kind.
clear as kind.
And as I communicate with coaches about challenging things, that's been a mantra that I try to keep in mind that, just that clarity. of direct, clear communication is kind. It may or may not be nice, but we that doesn't really matter. It is kind that you're being clear with somebody, you're being direct with somebody, and doing it in a thoughtful way where you're showing love and care and concern for them, but also being direct and clear though. And as you noted, in person.
In person. I mean,
Yeah.
if I really care about someone and um, I know they have a health issue, a substance abuse issue, if I just say, "Oh, you're fine," that's not kind. That's not care. That's not love,
No.
right? And
No.
that's the thing. And I think people understand that, and it's just I think as coaches, we have to create the environment where and as parents where kids will do that. And also they know, hey, we have your back, but you're the one who's got to have this conversation, right?
Yeah.
You're doing it's the right thing. I got your back. If there's a problem with a conversation, I'll intervene on your behalf, but you have to have the conversation. That's now you as a leadership and as a leader. And I love what you said a couple of minutes ago about like, don't change who you are that got you to become a leader, right? So you don't have to become, some insane yelling, screaming person if that's
Yeah.
not your personality to get your message across. Get your message across using the same qualities that got you the armband in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jerry, any last question? I know you have 50 last questions, but maybe one so we can
I would
get.
never end if I didn't have to. Uh, so, uh, no, I think that we've covered quite a bit of ground here, and I'm I'm honored and privileged, and I know John, you feel the same way to have someone such as yourself, Erin, and please take credit for the fact that you're unusual, unconventional, and all those things, and that's what I saw about you when I first met you, and it's what I loved about you most, and it's working. Your coaches love being up there; they're attracted to coming there, and I've met so many of your coaches, and they have nothing but great things to say about your approach. And I think it's an approach to life, not so much an approach to sports. And I believe that it's all under one umbrella, which is love.
Yeah.
And that love is not the kumbaya that, although that's nice. I do like kumbaya. That's kind of cool. Standing around the fire holding hands. But I think the love you're talking about is deeper, empowering each other and enabling others to prioritize their well-being, fostering genuine connections, making people feel important, relevant, making them feel respected. Basically, just, you know, that deep connection that we have and that caring that we show. Because when people feel that way, it goes back to a lot of things that I like to talk about, which is feelings equal function. So I function at a high level when I'm in your environment. Like whenever I would come there and I would do a seminar or teach a class, or because of the environment, it was so safe that I would feel elevated. I would feel so good, and my function, I would perform at a higher level. And people need to get that. You know, we need to work at creating safe, elevated emotional environments where people feel really good about themselves. And under those conditions, we perform at higher levels rather than attacking the performance, attack the feelings. And that's an inside out job, going back full circle to what you were saying.
Mm,
That's
That's
mm,
it
well
for
said,
me.
Jerry. And I think one thing, if you don't mind, that I'll kind of jump on. You had mentioned the love being over all of it, and I've got five kind of principles that I try to remind myself and live by personally. And the last one is that love is a verb. That you need to love people. It's a verb. You're
Hmm.
doing things that are
Hmm.
loving
Hmm.
with people, to people, for people.
Hmm.
It's just not some ethereal concept that's out there that
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love this or I love that. It's going out and actually showing the love
It's a behavior.
for
It's a way
people.
of
Yeah,
being. it's being kind, it's being genuine, it's being
Yep.
authentic, it's being vulnerable, it's being all the time. And when you're being all these things, when you look at the great coaches and the great leaders, there aren't too many examples of this these days, but when you have that kind of leadership, people go the distance for you. They'll go the distance. They'll do anything you want, ask them to do. And because they feel that respected and they feel relevant and important and valued. So yeah, the umbrella, everything is under that.
Yeah.
So
Mm. Erin, thank you so much. I was talking to some guys the other day who are big into college football, and we were talking about Dabo Sweeney and how, what they said about him was the worst thing he ever did was win two national championships, and then
Right.
everyone expects that every year, right?
Right.
But what a quality human being he is and deep care for the kids. And they said, one of the things that's very consistent amongst college football coaches is, if they are asked, who would you like your own kid to play for? Everyone says Dabo Sweeney. And just having this conversation and knowing you over the years, what I think about is if I was a coach, who would I want to work for? It'd be Erin Quinn. So
there we go.
thank you.
Amen.
Thank you both. Appreciate you both and appreciate being on today, but appreciate the good work you do and our relationship over the years. So thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Thanks for being on the Way Champions. Jerry, that was a masterclass in, as Erin would term it, inside out leadership, wasn't it?
It's a master class in anyone who wants to be an AD and successful.
Or
Um,
coach. I mean, it's all, right?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
leadership for sure.
Leading people, yeah.
But the thing is, what happens is with a lot of ADs is they no longer have contact with the students. And I think as an AD, that what he was saying to me was that's an essential absolute.
Hmm.
When I was walking with him down this major hallway at Middlebury, and John, I mean, seriously, there was at least 20 people. He knew their first names, knew something about them, stopped, said something. It's like it took us a half hour to get 5 minutes down the hallway.
Mm.
And I think that's an important idea. Yeah, leadership is one thing, and coaches could learn from him a lot about being a great coach. But he's more than that, he's like seeing the whole picture. The AD is like from up here looking down, and they forget that element of the importance of connection with the athletes themselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
it,
it was just, I just keep thinking back to this first take care of yourself, right?
absolutely,
And,
yeah, that's
you
so
have to
important. Yeah,
exercise, you
yeah,
have to be mindful,
yeah,
spiritual,
yeah,
wherever you get that from,
yeah,
you
yeah,
have to fill your cup first, and then you can serve people.
yeah.
And
Well,
I just meet so many athletic directors, right, in my work, trying to go speak at a school, trying to go
yeah,
work that just they're constantly canceling phone calls, canceling things because they're living in that,
yeah,
quadrant one of
yeah,
the madness, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
and they never you never catch up, and then they burn out, and it's
yeah,
just like,
yeah. You see
man,
a
if you've
lot
had
of
to cancel five phone calls in a row, something's got to tell you that this
yeah.
is not sustainable.
Yeah, yeah. The whole thing, I mean, yeah, self-awareness, that's where it starts. And that's why we have that as part of our curriculum with the certification. It's becoming self-aware, asking the right questions, like who am I now? I'm an AD. No, I'm not an AD. And you keep taking those questions deeper. So
Hmm.
it's a self-awareness, but from self-awareness comes self-regulation. And he
Yeah,
mentioned that. And so many of these leaders are unhinged. They're unhinged, as you say, they're just like, it's chaotic, it's crazy. It's like, and they're not treating people well, and
yeah,
they're not being kind. And in order to be kind and treat people well, you've got to self-regulate.
yeah.
And the world is going to throw curveballs all the time. And so it starts from within, and yeah, all these things that he does, mindfulness, meditation, breathing,
Tai
uh,
Chi, yeah,
Tai Chi. He
yeah.
didn't mention yoga, but I know he's done a lot of yoga. And
Skiing, whatever it is. Yeah,
yeah,
I just like the I really liked he had a quote that said, "Leadership is not doing something to someone,
Yeah,
right? Leadership
yeah,
is being."
yeah,
And this idea of being that we talk about over and over all the time, it's
yeah,
just it's a choice that I'm now going to be this way,
yeah.
and I'm going to lead, and I'm going to be myself, but I'm going to make
Right. And
decisions and actions and behaviors that help me to inspire, motivate, and connect with others.
and that being is got to be intentional. You just
Yeah.
can't all of a sudden like, oh, yeah, I'm in nirvana or I'm whatever. You got to have an intention to be a certain way. And that's why I like so much when we get our cohort to do the breathing and the feelingization, as I call it, to
Mhm.
feel themselves being that way. You could feel yourself being a certain way, and if you're doing it each day, you be that way. You become, you are, and that's how all behaviors happen. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Yeah, no, it's what a conversation. Well, again, thank you to Erin Quinn. Thank you to all
yeah.
of our podcast champions, Sprocket Sports, Zone 14 Coaching, everyone who supports the podcast here. Thank you to everyone who buys the books and leaves reviews and does all this. And as we spoke about, new book coming out here in late spring, early summer of 2026
And
on
he's gonna want
Captain.
copy. He's gonna want copies of that one.
Captain. Thanks, everyone. Your influence is never neutral. So go out there, change the world, make a difference. See you again next week, all.
Thank you, John.